Let me tell you how just one tiny accidental moment can detonate your entire marriage and expose a web of lies that had been festering for years. My name's Adam. I'm 35 years old and I've been married to Stephanie, who's 3 years older than me, for over a decade. On the surface, we were just an ordinary couple. Two working professionals trying to navigate life, bills, and long days. Our home was modest but stable, and I honestly thought our relationship was too. Because of my line of work, I'm often required to travel, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. It wasn't always easy. Stephanie hated my business trips. She used to pick fights about them all the time, upset that I wasn't around more. But over the last few years, her protests faded. I thought we'd reached a quiet understanding. Maybe she'd accepted it. Maybe we'd found some kind of balance. But I was wrong. One phone call, just one, ripped the lid off everything. I was out of the country for work, midway through a routine business trip. Stephanie and I usually stayed in touch during these times, mostly through video or voice calls depending on what she was doing. That day, she told me she was busy doing stuff around the house, so we started with a voice-only call. No big deal. It was just casual conversation, until she accidentally hit something on her screen. Suddenly the video feed popped on. I doubt she even realized her camera was active right away, because in a split second I saw it all. The phone had been propped up, aimed squarely at our bed. And lounging casually across the mattress, completely naked, was some young guy. Maybe 25 at most. My wife. She was frantically scrambling on the floor, trying to gather her clothes. Just as naked. Just as guilty. My brain short-circuited. I went from calm to screaming in a blink. I shouted so loud, I wouldn't be surprised if I blew out the phone's speaker. My voice was shaking with rage. She looked horrified, but not horrified enough. Meanwhile, the guy just looked at the camera, smirked, and laughed like it was a joke. That infuriating little grin of his was gasoline on an already blazing fire. Stephanie started crying, babbling apologies that meant absolutely nothing. And the guy. He leaned closer to the phone and said something that still rings in my ears. "If you're such a tough guy, why don't you come back and deal with me in person?" And then the screen went black. She'd hung up. Honestly, it was probably for the best. I was trembling with rage, on the edge of saying something, or doing something, that I might have regretted later. But even in that chaos, one thing was crystal clear. There was no misunderstanding here. No need for excuses or explanations. The betrayal was right there on screen. And yet, my flight home was still a week away. Could have tried to reschedule. Could have rushed home. But I didn't. What was the point? The damage was done. There was nothing to salvage. Instead, I focused on finishing my work and mentally preparing for what I had to face once I was back. But I knew one thing. I was going to find out who that smug little punk was. Turns out that part was easy. People like him can't help but put themselves out there. Sure enough, he was all over social media. Shirtless selfies, gym shots, hashtags like #model and #alpha. He was 23. Even younger than I'd guessed. Through his friends list, I confirmed he and Stephanie were connected. Not only had she brought this kid into our home, into our bed, she had kept him around in plain sight. That lit a fire in me. Before heading home, I called up a friend, someone I trusted, and asked if I could borrow her social media account for a bit. I explained everything. She didn't hesitate. With her profile, I messaged the guy, pretending to be interested. He responded fast. Claimed he had a girlfriend, but added that he was open to casual fun. Perfect. We set a time and place to meet. An evening meetup at a small local park. I arrived first, hiding out where I could see him, but he couldn't see me. And sure enough, there he was. Same cocky posture, same smug face. He didn't recognize me at all. I walked straight up to him and asked if we still had a date. He rolled his eyes and muttered something like, "Wrong guy, bro, move on." That's when I pulled out my phone, showed him our chat, and told him exactly who I was. His expression changed instantly. From cool to panicked. He tried to bolt. But I'm 6 feet 2 inches and well-built. He didn't stand a chance. I grabbed his jacket and yanked him back. He started flailing, begging me not to hurt him, whining about his following and sponsors. Honestly, it was pathetic. I didn't want to land in jail, so I held back, but not completely. I gave him a few hard shots, nothing too serious, just enough to leave a message. One hit broke his nose. A small crowd had started watching by then, so I let him go, but not before I made him talk. I demanded the truth. How long had this been going on? And that's when the last pieces of my world shattered. He blurted it all out. My wife hadn't just cheated with him. She'd been sleeping with multiple men for years, especially when I was away on business. According to him, she used dating apps. Picked up men like they were groceries. Sometimes she even bragged about it. I wanted to believe he was lying. That he was just scared, trying to shift the blame. But deep down, he knew. His panic was real. His desperation was real. And his story, it lined up too perfectly. So I tested it. I made a fake profile on the dating app he'd mentioned. Within 10 minutes of light conversation, I matched with my wife. She didn't recognize me, claimed she was divorced, said she had no attachments, and was just looking for some fun. Even after getting caught red-handed, she hadn't stopped. Finally, I went home. We hadn't spoken since the day of that video call. She wasn't expecting me. When I walked through the door, she didn't even look surprised. She looked defiant. She stared me dead in the eyes and said, "Do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop cheating. I just want a divorce." The words hit like a sledgehammer. I was stunned, crushed, furious. I lost control. Slapped her. Yes, I regret it. Violence isn't the answer. But in that moment, everything I had held inside, every betrayal, every lie, boiled over. Then she really showed her true self. She sneered, said she never respected me, that I was barely a man in her eyes, that she only married me for stability and money, and that she'd been cheating since our wedding day. My hands clenched, but I held back. Instead, I told her to get the hell out. She laughed like it was no big deal. So I threw her out, literally. Just a bathrobe on her back. She screamed in the street, threatened to call the cops if I didn't give her clothes and money. Neighbors got involved. Eventually, the police showed up. I calmly explained everything. They nodded, said good luck, and left. I tossed her coat and shoes outside and slammed the door. The next day, I hired a lawyer. Thankfully, almost everything I owned, house, car, savings, was mine before the marriage or inherited. She tried to demand alimony, even claimed she deserved spousal support. The judge nearly laughed. We had no kids, no joint property. She got nothing. She vanished soon after. Have no idea where she is. And honestly, I don't care. So yeah, one accidental tap of a phone screen exposed years of betrayal, lies, and manipulation. That's all it took. To anyone out there, trust your gut. Pay attention to the small things. If something feels off, it probably is. The truth might be painful, but living in a lie, that's worse. I lost my wife, but I found my freedom. And that's something she can never take from me again.